There are really two major ways that we use to gain access to an environment when we are tasked with infiltrating a target. And the first of those is remotely, whether it's through a misconfiguration or an exploitable vulnerability. If it's an exploitable vulnerability, that's usually an outdated system that has an issue that we can take advantage of. Or there can also be a misconfiguration where, for example, they expose some files that have sensitive credentials in them that we can then reuse to gain access to that particular system. The other way to gain access to an organization is through phishing. That's tricking users into clicking on a link, giving us credentials or some other method of gaining access to their system, whether that's through an email or a phone call or some other method, tricking users into giving us access. And once we have that access, we'll use that access to look around inside their network. That gives us a foothold inside their environment and then we'll use that to gain further access to other systems. Generally, once we have a foothold inside an environment, it's a matter of a couple hours before we have complete access to most of their systems internally. So generally what we will do when we gain access to a system inside an environment, we will take our foothold and we will do some reconnaissance on that system and of the surrounding network. We'll try to analyze what sort of users there are, what groups there are, what permissions users have on certain systems, and what sort of network traffic is going on inside the environment. And then one of the common things that we will see is that users have misconfigured permissions that give them too much access inside the environment. So that's users having local administrator permissions on their workstations or on other servers, things like that. Another thing that is very common to see are misconfigurations, where a group is unintentionally granted permissions to control a server. And if that's a widely used server, then we can gain access to that device with admin credentials and get other credentials off of that, which expands our reach within the environment and lets us perform lateral movement. Another major thing that we see are shared passwords, whether that's users sharing passwords between each other via email or in a password file or something like that, or a shared local admin password across a large number of devices in the environment. It's very common that administrators will configure all systems to use the same local admin password, and once we discover that, we can use that to hop from system to system within the environment and eventually gain access to sensitive data or sensitive systems.